Well, hey everybody, it's Chuck. Welcome back. FSD version 13.2. I'm going to do a little errand drive today. I'm going to twist it up just a little bit. We're going downtown to the FedEx building, so we're going to get a little bit of highway, a little bit of city, a little bit of rush hour here at 8:45 in the morning. But I'm starting this drive not too far away from the unprotected left-hand turn, and I'm going to go straight, and it's got a cul-de-sac to do a U-turn. Just an interesting scenario. I did try to back it out of my driveway and have it, and it's still not saying FSD is available in my driveway, so I'm not showing that. So to get this blue button, just like, you know, the FSD available up there, I wasn't able to get it. And also in the sun, it wouldn't do it either. So I found a spot to do it in front of the cul-de-sac. So we're just going to see if this can be completely hands-off all the way to FedEx. We'll see, and we'll talk about it. Shooting straight ahead into this cul-de-sac, it's a very wide one in my mind. So it really should have no problem with this radius of turn. No three-point turn should be required here. And it's doing it just fine. So a little U-turn in the cul-de-sac. And then you see we've got the right-hand turn up here in, for our, okay, so take over immediately. I didn't expect that, other than to say the sun was shining in my eyes just before that happened. I'm leaving this running just so you can see what's going on. I've got hazards on and the car stopped. So I don't know that this was a crash. I'm just gonna tap the brake. And then, did you see that? Autopilot aborted, camera visibility. So it definitely was that sun coming straight into my eyes. Must have hit these forward cameras and said, not doing that. So I'm going to just go ahead and, now that we're in the shade actually, I'm going to go ahead and hit park, re-enter the button, and see if it'll kind of keep itself. This sun's kind of coming through the trees here, but it was really, really bright just as it avoided. So we definitely still have camera visibility issues with direct sunlight. No doubt about it, it was in my eyes, but I've got a visor and a hat on and some things like that that I can do to mitigate this glare. Okay, we got a truck coming from the left, and then we're going to do our unprotected left turn. I'm going to delete the point and let it do a U-turn after that. No overhead shots today. Okay, that car is going to the left. You know, it didn't do a NHTSA stop there. Interesting, it went straight to the creep. We got a little gap here, and it waited. That's interesting. I thought it would have gone for that yesterday on my unprotected left-hand turn video, but it waited on that one. We got traffic from the right, so it definitely needs to wait. And here's that slow approach. No cars coming from the left, so I'm okay with that slow approach. Tiny gap here, don't go. Okay, that's good, it didn't go. Just trying to see, and there's no cars coming from the left, so I'm not worried about my position, but I can kind of look here. It's not really defining it. Now the left lane is open right now. Perfect. That was a really good unprotected left-hand turn. I don't have any problem with that. Now the sun is in my eyes again, pretty bad. So I'm gonna hit done there. And I've got my hat down. Pay attention to the road, Chuck. Pay attention to the road. And I'm kind of using my height here to keep, I'm trying not to put the visors down so you can see out the front. I'm using just kind of this top part of the car to block it. All right, so it's got a programmed U-turn here. We've done this before, so this isn't the first one. It's going to be interesting if the sun is a problem though, and if it's going to map a U-turn. Okay, we've got a little bit of traffic coming, so it definitely needs to wait. You can see the planner in the upper right hand corner definitely has a U-turn mapped, and I've just got a blinker on, and it definitely has a U-turn up here in the upper left hand corner mapped also. So we'll just wait on this slug of traffic and see what happens here. I did have a lot of great feedback off the unprotected left-hand turn video yesterday. It did a great job. It got all of them. It was moderate traffic. I would say it was a little bit lighter than this traffic right here. But I did it at twilight. Some of you guys had recommended, hey, can you do some kind of in the daylight dawn break? And now that we're in daylight savings time is off, you know, it gets dark and the morning commuters are commuting in the dark a little bit. So it turned out pretty good. It did present kind of an interesting scenario of some cars with their headlights on and headlights off at twilight. All right, I'm gonna stop talking. Right after this semi, we've got a small gap. If it commits and gives me a good boost, all right, there's the turn. Nice, and a good commit. That was really, really well executed. It never paused or stuttered. It continuously turned, and then once it kind of knew it had the radius, it gave me a little bit of a boost there. That was good, well done. Okay, back to our conversation about the unprotected left-hand turns. On this version, it was solid. It made good decisions. The one thing I noticed, and here we're passing the turn right here, is that it has a slow approach to the median. Now, I need a little bit more data to say, is it using that slow approach even when cars are rapidly approaching? In that one we just did, there were no cars coming on the left direction, so a slow approach was fine. There was nobody you had to get out of the way of. Now, some people would say, get your business done and get in the median. You don't know what's going to come next, and there's a valid point to that too. So anyway, to each his own. I was very impressed with it. The Tesla AI team deserves a lot of credit for all the hours they've put into this turn, and I'm sure it has a lot of learning involved. City bus over here to the right, that interesting scenario. See how that car is stopped? I was already in the left lane, so didn't need to deal with any of that. So I am in standard mode today, and I did have some feedback from some viewers that said, please don't change the modes, while you're driving, so we can kind of see the decisions. And while I was kind of playing with the new features on the first few drives, I think I kind of get your point also, and point taken on a standard drive where you're just trying to see how the car does, to not be fiddling with the modes too much, so that there's at least a little some consistency in the inputs that the model is using. So I'm going to leave this one in standard, and maybe on the return trip from FedEx, I'll switch it into either chill or hurry, and I'll just decide on the way back which one to do. This is a fairly straightforward drive. I have filmed this in the past, and it depending on the time of the day and the traffic scenario, the downtown one-way street stuff kind of present an interesting situation. But of course, parking at the end at FedEx, there's these parallel spots, and I'm really curious if it's going to try to find a spot, or if it's going to loop around the block like you would normally do, or if it's just going to pull over in traffic and say you're at your destination. A lot of question marks there. On to the next, let me tell you what I'm going to do. For those of you that know I'm a beekeeper, this is the last month of a study with the University of Florida, and I'm delivering bee samples from 3 of my hives to a graduate student at the University of Florida. For those of you that kind of follow me on the beekeeping thing, I'm a master beekeeper in the state of Florida, and I'm always helping and mentoring both students at the University of Florida or veterans. And even new beekeepers that are just trying to get started. And this is the end of 2024's study. We started in January collecting samples, and this is the last month. So hopefully this research got the data that she needed, and maybe we'll get to read the paper soon. Anyway, just thought throw a little extra context on what's going on this morning. In other news, I went through my camera this morning early at around 5:30 in the morning when I got up, and yellow light, good stopping decision there. That car decided to go, so it would have made it just fine, but we've seen some question marks on some drives about how it's handling yellows. I think that one was just right, so no problem there. Back to the news. So I went through my cameras from yesterday. I was busy up in the trees yesterday doing some tree pruning, and I didn't get to look at the cameras in real time, but there were 3 different ADAS drivers captured on my cameras yesterday. The Cybertruck ADAS driver, a Model Y that had the silver hubcaps on it. We've seen that Model Y many, many times before. Some speculation about whether or not that's a hardware 3 or hardware 4 Model Y. For fear of making an error without being absolutely conclusively correct, I don't know if that was a hardware 3 vehicle or not. But because it had the silver hubcaps, it could have been. The only way I would know externally to see if it was a hardware 3 car is to get a very up-close image of the vehicle and determine whether or not you've got the little Terminator red lens in the cameras that you can see from the outside. Of course, from the front, if you can see it, you can see the dummy camera, but I don't know. if I have any footage. And, you know, I've posted pictures of that vehicle before, so maybe some of you that have been watching these clips for a long time would know whether or not that vehicle is a hardware 3 or hardware 4 car. And there was also a black Model 3 that I believe is a hardware 4 car. And some viewers have noticed that the very clear Highland kind of nose on that car is the definitive factor there. But I'll let you guys decide on whether they're hardware 3 or 4, and maybe we can kind of determine that for consistency going forward. And of course, the Cybertruck is hardware 4 with a bumper camera. I do know that that's the ADAS driver Cybertruck, even though my neighbors are starting to get a Cybertruck or 2 in the neighborhood. If you look at that picture on X that I posted, and I've posted before, there's a very distinct kind of patina on the back right passenger door that kind of has 3 little vertical lines. Until they polish that car or buff those lines out, I'm using that as the determining factor on whether or not that's the Tesla ADAS operator driving it. And also, there's a little bit of a pattern I use. Like if the same vehicle drives by, like, you know, every 20 minutes for like an hour, you kind of know it's somebody doing some testing and not just a neighbor going to run an errand. That's how I determine that. Okay, so on our drive here, so far so good. After our critical disengagement for sunlight at the very, very beginning, I haven't done anything yet. It's done really, really good. I don't know what the answer is going to be if sunlight is an issue on V13. You know, there were some notes in V13 about the cameras and how the camera cleaning. And while we're coming up here to red light, maybe I can go to the software page and we can go down and hit the release notes. And we can scroll up to camera visibility detection. You know, at the end of your drive, notification of poor camera visibility is detected. To view these images, go to service camera visibility. I don't know if I go to service now, because that drive may have been ended. Is camera, okay, because I'm in drive, I can't select camera visibility. So just another one of those things that it's a little bit of a mystery. And it talks about camera cleaning also in the release notes up top. In this earlier section, it talks about improved camera cleaning on that third bullet from the bottom. So I don't know, maybe there's some camera stuff going on in this V13 stack, and camera cleaning and camera visibility is all a little sensitive right now in this early build, and maybe that's why we're getting the red hands of death there with the critical disengagement. I do know that as we pop out on the interstate here, I'm a little bit late on the rush hour, but at peak rush hour at about 8 to 8:30, as we go east on I-10, that sun is directly in your face. Almost to the point that even as a human, sunglasses are required, and you got to get your visor at just the right height so you can see. It's a pretty challenging scenario. Maybe I'll have to try to get the Ego AI4 out there and see how it handles that scenario. Okay, the best lane decisions on this part of the route is essentially to not do too many lane changes over to the left, because after we join Interstate 95 in just like a mile or so, we exit to the right. So it does need to kind of get over a little bit. We're in standard mode, so it shouldn't kind of try to race to the left lane. It probably needs to get over one lane if I'm not mistaken. And this is where these speed profiles, I just love them, because this intersection, and here I'm starting to squint a little bit from my eyes up high, using my kind of height again. I don't know if it's going to disengage or not for the sun there. I don't think it looks like it's okay. Before, very early on, that 50 mile an hour speed limit sign was its Achilles heel at this big interchange on the interstate. And while 50 miles an hour might be the speed limit on the map data, because I don't see a sign that says that, I would not have made that lane change for where we're going, but let's just see how this plays out. It might be right here. Here you can see the traffic queuing up over here for the bridge. That speed limit, here we're going 64 and a 50 in standard mode, and now we're changing back over to the right. So it almost makes me think that lane change was, I don't know. What do you guys think that lane change was for? The speed on this ramp, too slow, or even the speed limit of 50 can be dangerous because of the speed of these other cars. So at least now it's got this profile logic, even in standard mode, where it's continuing with the flow. Here I'm going 61, and you can see these cars are already passing me, not with a lot of speed, but they're going 65. Okay, there's a box in the road. Whoa, it went around that box in the road. That was a good clip. Highway speeds, I did not have a vehicle in front of me, but it definitely went around that box in the road just as we were getting ready to exit here. So nice job, Tesla AI. I'll probably post that little clip on X for everyone to see. Not knowing what was in that box, just a piece of cardboard, might not have been horrible, but who knows? Maybe there was a gun safe in that thing and they had a bunch of steel and iron. Somebody's going to be missing their Amazon package. All right, so now we've exited the highway, and now we're in a one-way scenario down for about another, looks like 0.6 miles to the FedEx office. This is where the one-way streets, the city buses, kind of the lanes and everything really can make a difference on how it behaves. I have not done downtown yet in Jacksonville. This is, believe me, Jacksonville downtown. It's a little bit of a joke compared to a city. But it does have the structure of a city with one-way streets and what lights and stuff like that are synchronized. They're pretty well marked, though, so it's not like New York City or Queens where, I've worked for a long time, where you just almost have to have local knowledge to navigate. But so far, I can't see what's going on in front of this car, and I can't see the red light, yet I see a red light. I guess if I lean way over here to the right, that camera does have visibility. That you can see the one red light posted there that is listed as controlling light because it's in blue, which also just shows, and there it turned green. So obviously with the lead car, none of this really matters because it's just following the leader here a little bit. Stayed in standard, so I didn't lose my speed profiles. I still have not figured that out yet. All you guys that watch every single one of these videos from all of us, has anybody figured out why the profiles are disappearing in some situations? If you watch my Memorial Park section with AJ, it disappeared there. I definitely saw in some of Omar's drives that he was driving, I believe, with his dad, and some of those S-curves, it was disappearing. I don't know what this scenario would be where it would go away without like being speed limit based. Like, we had the 50 mile an hour limit on the early versions on 12.563, and it cut on and off right at 50. But I don't know. We're sticking in, and it just disappeared just as we're talking about it. See that right here? We're crawling along and it's 30 miles an hour. Speed limit didn't change, but my profile disappeared. If I scroll up and down, I've got the max now, but I don't have the profile listed. See that? And if I can catch this, if I go to autopilot here, it's in standard, but it's not, it's selected standard there. I'm just going to leave that up and see what changes, because I bet in here in a few seconds, it's just going to pop back up. Why would it disappear? I was just crawling along in traffic. It feels buggy, meaning or there's some conditions where speed profiles are needed, that speed profiles need that I'm not aware of, or something like that. Or maybe it's just a display bug. Maybe the speed profile is actually still functioning, but it's just not shown. Maybe it's a saving screen space kind of a thing. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's a bug. I don't think it's just a display. I don't know. What do you guys think? Leave in the comments down below what you think that issue is. I'm probably not going to make a highlight of that. That's just going to be like an Easter egg question for everybody that watches all these videos, watches the whole video. So kind of stop and go congestion here. Not very hard for FSD. Not much to test in stop and go congestion. Although it's very nice to have FSD in stop and go congestion because you don't really have anything to do. Normally I'd be playing music or listening to the news or a podcast or something. When's my profile going to come back? Come on, profile. Show me something. Good lane selection. Didn't get stuck over in the right turn only lane there. This traffic is thick enough that it might have to make some decisions up here in a second about whether or not to stop in the middle of the intersection or leave a gap open. Now we're at the very slow speed, but 0.3 miles until my destination, and my destination is on the left. So this early and more natural lane changes logic that we've been kind of playing with the last couple versions obviously isn't distance based. You know, it's kind of speed and time based. See, that 0.2 miles may take me 10 minutes for all I know. So it's fine staying in this left lane. I also wonder if there's a radius where to look for parking. More than likely on the current version, you know, the release notes down here talk about an upcoming feature. Nope, didn't mean to change that. An upcoming feature about better destination logic. You see this down here. There's support for destination options, including pulling over, parking in a spot, driveway, or garage. When I read that note, I'm thinking that it's got to be something a little bit more like an Uber or a Lyft app where you tell them your address, but then you adjust the pin in the app where you actually are going to get picked up. So I'm hoping that there's a point where I can put in a POI or an address, but then at that address, I can go to satellite or I can go to high definition mapping or something and then move the pin to exactly where I want to be picked up or dropped off. Okay, as a human, I'm actually starting to think I'm a couple blocks away. What is the parking situation like? I don't think the Tesla will ever park before you get to its destination. I think it's always going to park after. So that would be a scenario where if you were going to a parking garage nearby, you'd maybe tag that. And when it says garage in that release note, I have no idea whether that means parking garage or perhaps a personal garage kind of a logic. So how is it? I'm going to predict what this is going to do. It's going to go up right next to that POI, and it's just going to kind of pull over and stop. There's a possibility that it's going to get stuck with the flow of traffic and end up doing a loop around to the left. If you look at the actual map in here, it's a one-way situation around this FedEx. So I've either got to take a left right after I get to FedEx and come back around, and if that's the case, we'll let the car do that. But I have a feeling that's how it's going to play out. The dream scenario would be it sees a parallel parking spot close to that and it pulls in. Even if it does parallel parking, I guess I'm going to have to decide if I'm going to let the car do that in this kind of traffic. Meaning like it can parallel park, but the speed that it parallel parks is rather slow in my mind. All right, so after this light, I need to get over, and there's plenty of parallel parking to the left and the right. I'm going to let this play out just because I know I can come around the block and, oh my gosh, it did it. Now, granted, it didn't have to parallel park, but it saw parking and it pulled over, and nice job, Tesla. You actually did it. So that's part one of this video. I'm going to go ahead and stop the cameras and come back, and we'll do a part two here in a second. But you pulled over and you parked. Other than that critical disengagement in the sun, it was a perfect drive. Be right back. All right, everybody, I'm back. FedEx went well. My bees are on the way to University of Florida, and I just re-entered a route FSD return. And I'm still in the spot where the car parked me, but I don't have anything available. I just tapped the brake. I tapped the brake a couple times, and now it says FSD is available. So I'm not sure. Surely the brake didn't have to do that. I think it was just recaging itself and finding. So I'm just going to press and hold, and nicely done. There's nobody behind me. You can see in the rearview camera, easy peasy. Car coming from the left, waiting on that, and then it's going. Perfect. Nice. That was okay. So I have to say, my first test drive did not have any success with the auto park or unpark. So obviously N of 1 experiments are not, something to hang your hat on. But after watching Dirty Tesla and Chris and Stephanie have that unbelievable park in front of GameStop, I was like, okay, we got to make sure this is a real thing. And obviously the parking was solvable there, right? Meaning like there was a spot right there, it just pulled over. I don't know if it would have parallel parked. There's just no way to know. So more testing is required. But you got to say, it did it. And that is exactly what I would have wanted a robotaxi to do. So that first drive, with the exception of the critical disengagement due to the cameras and the sun, was just what I would want it to do. Okay, so we're turning right here, like, you know, doing a couple of loop back one-way streets. Got a pedestrian here, perfectly identified. Work truck, it's gonna roll right behind her. We got cones and barrels. Nice. Okay, the cones and the barrels are actually jumping out into the lane a little bit. This car just pulled over to park, so it's passing him. Nice and smooth. Still don't have my speed profile showing, so I don't know what's up with that. Very interesting that it stopped way back here when it could go right on red. I do have a work truck here. It looks like I've got a road closed sign for the opposite direction here. But I don't have anybody behind me, so I can be as patient as I want to be. I would be kind of nudging up now after the stop to try to start peeking around this truck. But it decided to wait on the green light and go on its way. So no problems there. I just, that's not what I would have done with the right on red sign not being there. So right on red was legal. What do you guys think? Where are my speed profiles? Give me some ideas in the comments by what might be going on so I can continue to think about them while I'm driving. It's got something to do. It has to be something to do with map data, right? Like I guess the only way to do that would be to test the same exact location to see if it disappears every time. Maybe it's speed, or maybe it's there. I don't know. We'll just have to keep thinking about it. I don't know if it's helpful. If I have the autopilot up, when the speed profile comes back on, does anything change in the settings screen? Up ahead, I don't know if you can see it, the flashing lights with cones there. I would get over into the middle lane very quickly. Is it just going to go around the cones? Okay, so it just ooched around the cones. It did not change lanes. Perfectly fine adjustment there. Okay, so my standard is back. No change there in the setting, so I don't know. I didn't see anything. All right, when we get up here to join 95, it's a little bit of an interesting intersection, joining the highway from these city streets. If you weren't from around town, you really have to follow the signs to probably get it right. We'll see I think I've driven this in FSD before. I think it's done it just fine. It's kind of a hidden exit, if I'm not mistaken. But it can get itself caught in the wrong lane with some traffic and then miss it. So we'll see if an early and more natural lane change helps it get over to the right lane. It just feels smooth. That's just we say that on every version, though. I guess we need a new word. Maybe we just need to add smoother, more natural. I don't know if the ADAS drivers that I saw, we talked about that on the first half of this video. If the ADAS drivers I saw on the cameras yesterday are testing V13 or not. The Cybertruck being out there is a little bit of a question mark. Like, is a Cybertruck going to get V13? This morning, Tesla Scope reported some vehicles, I think it was a Model S and a Model X, getting a version 12.5.6.4 of FSD, which is even further of a point release beyond the AI 4 Model Y before I got V13. So I was on 12.5.6.3. All right, here's our exit to 95 or I-10. Do you see this right here? And it kind of needs to get over there. All right, it did it just fine, so can't complain. It had a lead car. And then this on-ramp is kind of a tight, dark one. It's doing it just as it's not unsure of itself at all. All right, so now we need an accelerate to merge. This accelerate to merge on the interstate is important to be at the right speed. And it doesn't look like the traffic is dense enough that it's going to be very difficult. So it should have no problem here just getting over one lane. Easy peasy. So back to the ADAS drivers. 12.5.6.4 is going out now, and that is beyond, it's an FSD release on the 12 branch beyond that I was ever on. So what it probably is that is going to be the new stable branch that everyone gets pushed to before they eventually get V13. Possibly even Hardware 3 vehicles will get on that version. So it feels like that's what it's doing. And possibly even the Cybertruck could go further on to the 12.6 branch, because the Cybertruck is still on 12.5.5.3. And all these branches have got to just be annoying to the team. They got to want to get rid of some of them. Maybe they'll get rid of 12.5 and 12.4 and just move on to 12.6 and V13. Okay, we've got to get over 3 lanes to take an exit. And we're in standard mode, so it's just kind of doing its thing. It looks like I got one more car to kind of wait on here. And he kind of boxed me out a little bit with the speed. So now I need to slow down or speed up to get into that hole right there. And it looks like it's sped up. So now this lane or the lane to the left will work. Let's see which one it chooses. It looks like it's staying in this lane, which is perfectly fine. It does have the blinker on, so we're exiting. Nice job. I would call that moderate traffic, not light, not heavy. So it had the gaps it needed to do the lane changes. Didn't have to be overly aggressive, but it got where it needed to go in a relatively short amount of distance. Okay, back to V13 and 12.5.6.4. So I'm pretty certain that the stable branch is going to be 12.5.6.4. The one other variable that is out there is the holiday update. So the holiday update has got a lot of things in it, and I'm excited about a couple of them. Granted, it does not look like there's a whole lot of Hardware 3 stuff in there. It's mostly about the screen, but I am most excited about the weather layer on the map. Now, granted, as a pilot, maybe I'm into weather a little bit more than most, but when I'm driving on the interstate and where the cells are and how much heavy rain there is a piece of information I'm interested in. Slowdowns in traffic, and especially in Florida, where you can just have downpours for a mile and then perfectly clear the next. It's just it seemed like it should have been so simple to do. It just took a while for them to add that. It'll be interesting to see what the weather source is, whether or not it's a decent weather source, and what the resolution of the actual cells are. I'm pretty picky when I get to my weather layers about how good they look and whether or not they're accurately mapped and smoothed also. I don't like boxy weather maps. I like them to at least be smooth, so it's relative and somewhat pleasing to the eye. A few other things in there that I'm pretty excited about. I'm curious about this Cybertruck pinch to zoom on the rear camera. Kind of on some of our DM channels, we have heard that it will not affect the full screen driving mode, but when you're in the navigation mode, that the rear view camera will be allowed to be zoomed up to the full width of the navigation map. So that'll be an improvement. It's still not the rear view camera, kind of installation. It's still using the tailgate camera, obviously, which has some drawbacks and some benefits. I like having both at the moment. I like the rear view camera position I've got up on the top of the tonneau, and I like also having the tailgate camera. But the tailgate camera is useless if you're hauling anything with the tailgate down. Granted, that is not a very frequent occurrence, but it is a scenario. Okay, I think I covered most everything. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that was in those holiday release notes, but I don't have a note card in front of me to talk about a few of them. But there was definitely some interesting things in there. Some light shows and the typical holiday stuff, but some nice little pieces of eye candy for those waiting on that holiday update. But the reason I started on that holiday update is because it's that .44 branch that's out there now, right? So here on V13, we're on 2024.39. So now .44 is ahead. So my point being is, if you're getting onto a .44 build, there's a chance you may not get V13 anytime soon if V13 camps out on the 39 build. Now, granted, they could probably update V13 to the 44 build and stuff like that, but sometimes these first few point releases we don't know how long they're going to sit on one version or not. But the AI team did say that 13.3 would go wide. So the fact I'm on 13.2 could mean there's going to be a point release of 13.3 that should go wide. And in my opinion, this version should go wide to every car that it can be installed on. It is better than 12.5.6 in every respect. Granted, maybe some of the new features are still a little inconsistent. Maybe there are some bugs to fix. But for example, I would not want them to wait to fix this profile bug or issue that I'm noticing here to send it wide. That is not impacting the safety of the vehicle. The fact that sometimes it'll park and unpark and do those things and sometimes it won't, that is not an issue that should keep you on the 12.5.6 build. I think they should go wide with 13 to every eligible vehicle as soon as possible. It's better, no doubt about it. Start using those cameras, start getting that extra data. No reason not to. Now, there's a chance that there's some critical issues that have been identified and they want to fix those, but I haven't heard or seen any videos of them, and nobody is talking to me kind of on the back channels about any major issues that are happening. So I'm comfortable that this was a very, very solid first build. And when you think of what the team had to do to release something with no issues, safety issues for sure, on a complete rewrite using an entirely new data set from AI4 cameras in a new compute cluster, you know, it's just unbelievable. Testament to the team, both, you know, on the QA side, on the, you know, the code writing side, the model development, everything that goes on, a testament to the team. I don't think it's ever happened to where our first release was as solid as this one. Obviously, the first build of V12 felt amazing because it was obvious that and neural networks were doing some things and made things a lot smoother. But the transition to V13, while perhaps not the largest leap, I think 11 to 12 felt like a larger leap than 12 to 13 did. Kind of an aggressive curve there. Felt like I even saw some braking on there that the vehicle kind of stopped a little bit in front of us, but no issue. Almost like a Cybertruck braking curve on that one. I lost my train of thought. Sometimes that happens. Oh, we were talking about the team releasing V13 as well as it was, and the leap from 11 to 12 felt bigger than 12 to 13. 12 to 13 had some additional functionality, but of course the car just felt smoother and smarter and more determined. But that wasn't as large of a leap in feeling as it was going to end-to-end neural networks on city streets and on highway. All right, we are 0.3 miles from our last unprotected left turn, forward facing, should be fairly straightforward. We do have the sun in our eyes here. It's a little bit of a higher angle, but we haven't had any more of those critical disengagements. So I don't know, it's not every time, but it's definitely sometimes. Maybe there's a perfect sun angle that just does not like. I don't know. Looks like this turn is going to end up being protected. So we'll just kind of wrap up and say, this was a pretty good drive. I think I got a couple of highlight clips out of this one. The avoiding of the box on the highway was very good to see, very dynamic, very smooth, real time. The parking at the end was unexpectedly good. I didn't expect those parking spots to be as available as they were either. So that was kind of a lucky, good ending there. But here I am at the destination, and this was a zero intervention drive. It came out of the parking spot, it navigated downtown, it joined the highway, it brought me to our destination, and this could have been a robo-taxi ride for sure. I didn't do anything on this one other than talk to you guys. Anyway, thanks for sticking with me. Hopefully you're here at the end of the video. Maybe leave some comments down below what you think. One of the big question marks is, what do you think's going on with those speed profiles? Why are they cutting in and out? Anyway, have a great day, everybody. We'll see you next time.